The storm rolling across the Carthan Plateau wasn't natural. Nothing on this forsaken moon was. Adonis crouched beneath the overhang of crystalline rock, her scanner flickering in protest against the electromagnetic interference. The thunder cracked like artillery fire, and the wind howled through the canyons with a voice that spoke of ancient, hungry things. She wasn't alone. The creature had been following her for the better part of an hour. At first she'd mistaken it for a shadow, but shadows didn't have 6 legs and eyes that glowed like molten copper in the darkness. It was young. She could tell by the uncertainty in its movements, the way it hesitated before each step. A cub, separated from its pack, terrified and alone. Just like her. "Easy there," Adonis muttered, not expecting the thing to understand. Most species in this sector couldn't parse human vocalizations. The translator chip in her jaw had been fried 3 days ago when her ship went down. She was as isolated as the creature stalking her. Another crack of thunder split the air, closer this time. The cub, because that's what she'd decided it was, let out a sound somewhere between a hiss and a whimper. It pressed itself against the far wall of the shallow cave, its sleek, scaled body trembling. Those copper eyes darted between her and the storm outside, calculating which threat was greater. Adonis knew that feeling. She'd worn it on her own face enough times. She slowly reached into her pack, moving with deliberate care. The cub's pupils contracted to slits, its haunches tensing. "Relax," she said softly. "I'm not the monster here." The galaxy had taught her that humans occupied a strange space in the cosmic hierarchy. They weren't the strongest. The Vraxians could tear through steel with their bare hands. They weren't the smartest. The Quillari had been building quantum computers when humans were still banging rocks together. They weren't even the most fearsome predators. That honor went to about a dozen species that considered humans a decent snack. But humans had something else. Something the other races found deeply unsettling. Adonis pulled out a ration bar and broke it in half. The cub's nostrils flared, processing the scent. She tossed one piece toward it, watching as it skittered away from the offering before curiosity won over caution. A long, forked tongue tested the air, then the food. A moment later, the cub was devouring it with desperate hunger. "Thought so," Adonis said. "Lost, scared, and starving. Story of my life." The thunder boomed again, and this time the cub bolted straight toward her. It stopped just short of her boots, every muscle coiled tight, ready to flee or fight. But it didn't do either. Instead, it looked up at her with those molten eyes, and she saw something that transcended species. A plea for safety. Humans, the xenobiologist had concluded after decades of study, were persistence predators with an evolutionary quirk. They bonded with anything, everything. Other humans certainly, but also with creatures that should have been food or threats or simply irrelevant. Humans had domesticated wolves, befriended birds, kept fish as companions. They formed emotional attachments to robots, to plants, to virtual constructs that existed only in code. The galaxy found it bizarre. Dangerous, even. What kind of predator makes friends with its prey? What kind of apex species wastes resources caring for the weak and helpless? But Adonis understood the truth that most aliens couldn't grasp. It wasn't weakness. It was the ultimate survival strategy. Another flash of lightning illuminated the cave, and the cub pressed closer to her leg, shaking so hard she could feel the vibrations through her boot. Without thinking, Adonis reached down and placed her hand on its head. The scales were warm, smoother than she'd expected. The cub flinched but didn't flee. "It's okay," she whispered. "Just a storm. Just noise and light. Can't hurt you in here." Then she did something that would have baffled any of the so-called superior species watching. She began to hum. It was an old tune, something her mother had sung to her during storms back on Earth. No words, just a melody that rose and fell like gentle waves. The cub's trembling began to ease. Its breathing slowed. Those copper eyes blinked once, twice, then slowly closed. Within minutes, the creature was asleep, curled against her boot like a domesticated pet that had known her all its life. Adonis kept humming, kept her hand on the cub's head, and watched the storm rage outside their shelter. She thought about her destroyed ship, about the rescue beacon that might never be answered, about the fact that she was stranded on a moon that shouldn't support life but somehow did. She should have been terrified. By all rights, she should have killed the cub while she had the chance. One less threat to worry about. That's what any rational predator would do. But humans weren't rational. They were something stranger. Something the galaxy was still trying to comprehend. They were the species that looked at a terrified, dangerous creature and saw not a threat but a frightened child. They were the ones who'd rather sing away nightmares than simply eliminate them. The storm passed eventually, as all storms do. When the first light of the twin suns broke through the clouds, the cub stirred and lifted its head. It looked at Adonis for a long moment, then made a sound, softer this time, almost questioning. "Yeah, I know," Adonis said, scratching behind what she assumed were its ears. "Time to move. But you're welcome to tag along if you want." The cub stood, stretched its 6 legs, and stayed close as Adonis packed her gear. When she started walking, it followed, not behind like prey and not ahead like a leader, but beside her like a companion. The xenobiologists would have filled volumes trying to explain it. The Vraxians would have called it foolish. The Kilari would have calculated the inefficiency. But Adonis just smiled and kept walking, the predator cub padding faithfully at her side, humming softly to herself as they faced the unknown together. In the end, maybe that was humanity's real gift to the galaxy. The stubborn, irrational, beautiful refusal to face the darkness alone.